Hello, I'm going to give a Dvar Torah about the Parsha we're in this week. It's a double Parsha, Aharei Mot Kedoshim. And there's a very famous commandment in the Parsha of Kedoshim. Kedoshim means to be holy, to be sanctified. And the commandment is Ve'ahavta lere'acha kamocha. You shall love your fellow as yourself. This is the mitzvah of Avas Yisrael, of loving your fellow Jew. And we're told that Ve'ahavta lere'acha kamocha, Rabbi Akiva Omer, ze klal gadol b'Torah. That Rabbi Akiva said that this mitzvah of Ve'ahavta lere'acha kamocha, you shall love your fellow as yourself, this is the main commandment of the Torah. And for Rabbi Akiva, this was it. If you knew this commandment, you practice this commandment, that's what the whole Torah is leading to. So it's interesting that we're in the period of Sfirat HaOmer, and we're told that during this period we observe mourning because Rabbi Akiva's students, 24,000 of them, died. And we're told that the reason that they passed away during this period, which is why we don't have weddings and live music and celebrations, we don't buy new clothes, people don't shave, men don't shave, is that the students of Rabbi Akiva did not practice properly this mitzvah of Avos Yisrael, which is very strange. How can it be? Their teacher embodied this mitzvah. So I'm going to go and tell a story, actually 3 stories, from Masechet Shabbat, from the Talmud, in the Masechet called Shabbat. It's page 31 in that Masechta. So there was a convert, a prospective convert, and he came to Shammai. And he said, "How many Torahs do you have?" And Shammai said, "Well, we have a written Torah and an oral Torah." So the prospective convert said, "Well, I would like to convert, but I have a condition. I only want the written Torah. I don't want to get into that oral Torah stuff. So I would like to just learn the written Torah and convert." So Shammai took his big stick and he chased him away. He said, "You insincere person, get away, get away." So, well, the Gentile was kind of taken aback, but he said, "I heard there's another great rabbi in this city named Hillel. I'm going to go try him. Let's see what he says." So he comes to Hillel and he says, "I would like to convert, but I hear you have 2 Torahs, a written Torah and an oral Torah. I don't want the oral Torah. I just want the written Torah. So can we convert me just based on that?" So Hillel says, "Okay, come on in." So he's delighted. "Sure, let me come in." So Hillel says, "Well, tell me, do you know how to read Hebrew?" He said, "Well, no, I come from a different land. We don't have Hebrew." So he said, "Okay, well, first thing we have to do is start with the Aleph Bet. And let me teach you our alphabet. So you'll be able to read and study the written Torah, because that's what you want to study, right? The written Torah?" He said, "Well, yes, that's what I want to study." So he said, "Okay, so let's start." And he drew for him an aleph, and he said, "This is an aleph." And he drew for him a bet, and he said, "And this is a bet." And he drew for him a gimel, and he said, "This is a gimel." And he drew for him a daled, and he said, "This is a daled." So he said, "Okay, that's what we're going to start with for today. The first 4 letters of the alphabet is aleph, bet, gimel, daled." And they went over it several times. And he told him, "Now go home, practice this at home, review at home, come back tomorrow, and we'll go on." Great. The man was very excited. He thought, "Wow, this is better than I thought. This is wonderful." So he practiced all night long. He had aleph, bet, gimel, daled just down. Perfect. He comes back the next day, and Hillel says, "Welcome back. Now we're going to review what we learned yesterday." So he said the first letter is a taf, and he drew out a taf. And the second letter is a shin, and he drew out a shin. And the third letter is a resh, and he drew out a resh. And the fourth letter is a kuf, and he drew out a kuf. And the man looked at him. He said, wait a minute, that's not what you told me yesterday. Yesterday you told me it was Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. These are the first 4 letters. Now, the letters that Hillel told him today were the last 4 letters, going backwards. So Hillel said, well, see, I'm your teacher, and I'm teaching you a tradition. And that's what the oral Torah is. It's a tradition. So when I teach you the written Torah, you will not understand it, and you won't have it right if you don't get the tradition that I teach you, which is the oral Torah. So do you still want to just learn the written Torah? He said, well, no, I want you to tell me what it all means, and I want you to tell it to me accurately. So he said, okay, so let me teach you the tradition, and you'll accept the oral Torah. He said, yes. And he was very excited. He studied very hard. He became a sincere and righteous convert. Story number 2. Another prospective convert comes to Shammai. Now, a day before, he had heard, while he was walking by a house of study, a Beit Midrash, he heard the students talking and saying words like the ephod and the Urim Vetumim and the Me'il and the Tzitz, and he asked, what are they talking about? So one of the students said, oh, they're talking about the special clothing that the Kohen Gadol, our high priest, wears when he serves in the Beit HaMikdash. And he said, wow, I would like to be a high priest like that. I would like to wear that special clothing and do that. I think I want to convert. So he went over to the famous Rabbi Shammai and he said to him, I would like to convert. And I want to convert so I can become the Kohen Gadol. And Shammai said, ah, and he took his stick and he chased it. Go away, you insincere person, go away. So he went away and he thought, well, that didn't work out so well. But I hear there's another rabbi who's very famous. His name is Hillel. Let me try him. So he went over to Hillel and he said to him, I want to convert. And I want to convert so I can become a Kohen Gadol. And Hillel says, wonderful, come on in. So he brings him in and he says to him, all right, now you have to know that being the Kohen Gadol is not just wearing the beautiful clothes. You have to know all the rules and you have to know the things that the Kohen Gadol does and serves, just like anyone who takes on a new position in a high place would have to know all the rules. So would you like for us to start studying the rules? He said, well, yes, that's what I'm here for. So they begin to learn about the Kohen Gadol and the service that he has to do. And they get to a verse that says, any stranger that comes and serves in the place of the Kohen Gadol will be put to death. So he says, wait a minute, what exactly does that mean, any stranger? Who's a stranger? So Hillel told him, well, even David, Melech Yisrael, King David, the greatest king of all Israel, if he were to try to serve in place of the Kohen Gadol, he would be put to death. Really? Even King David? He said, yes. The only person who can be a Kohen Gadol, he has to be a descendant of Aaron a Kohen, the first Kohen. Otherwise, the person who tries is put to death. So he says, well, wait a minute. That means that me, I'm not even Jewish, and I don't come from a Jewish background, so I'm definitely not from the descendants of Aaron, so I would be put to death. Well, I don't want that, but your religion is so interesting. It's so beautiful. It's so sincere. I want to hear more. I want to learn more, and I want to become a Jew. And he learned and he learned and he learned, and eventually he became a sincere and righteous convert. And now we have story number 3. Story number 3 is another prospective convert, and he comes to Shammai, and he says to him, I would like to convert, but only on the condition that you can teach me the entire Torah while I stand on one foot. So Shammai took his stick and he chased him. Get away, get away, get away, you insincere person. So again, he thought, well, let me try another rabbi. I've heard of Hillel, and he went to Hillel. And he said to him, I would like to convert, but on the condition you can teach me the entire Torah while I stand on one foot. So Hillel says, okay, no problem. Are you ready? Okay, stand on one foot. Okay, so he stood on one foot, and Hillel said, whatever is hateful to you, do not do to another person. Okay, put your other foot down. That's it. I said, that's it? That's Judaism? He said, well, that is the main part of Judaism. Everything else just helps us understand and carry out that main commandment. So he said, wow, well, I need to know more. I want to learn more. So Hillel said, okay, let's start learning. And eventually this Gentile became a righteous and sincere convert. So one day these three converts by Hashgacha Pratis happened to meet each other at the same inn. And they began to talk to each other. And they started to exchange their stories about how they became Jewish. And it was very interesting to them that they had all gone to Shammai first and been chased away. And Hillel had welcomed them in, even though their original conditions were kind of ridiculous. So they said, you know what, we really don't agree with the approach of Shammai, because if we would have listened to him, none of us would have become Jewish. But because of the patience and love of Hillel, we have all come under the wings of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence. We have come into serving Hashem and becoming under his protection and his glory. And we're very grateful to Hillel for that. So we know that Shammai, in Pirkei Avot, it says that Shammai stated that you should greet every person besever panim yafot, with a cheerful countenance. Yet it doesn't seem that he greeted them with a cheerful countenance. It seemed like he was kind of stern, not very nice. But Shammai embodied an approach that says the people who study Judaism, whether they be born Jewish or whether they be converts, they need to come with a proper attitude. They need to become with what Shammai would consider toho kebaro. His inside is sincere like his outside. In other words, not to have any ulterior motive, but just to come with a real desire to serve Hashem. Whereas Hillel was of an approach that, you know what, let somebody get the foot in the door, and once they discover the beauty of Judaism, they will embrace it, and they will become sincere, and they will become that student that Shammai desires, which is toho kebaro, that his inside is like his outside, sincere within and without. And so basically Hillel had to prepare the students that would eventually become the type that Shammai would feel are worthy of studying. But if we look at this a little more deeply, and we look at what did Hillel tell this convert in the third story that I told. He said, whatever is hateful to you, do not do to another person. And that's all of Judaism. Everything else is just commentary. And Rabbi Akiva tells us, Ve'ahavta le're'acha kamocha, ze klal gadol b'Torah. That loving your fellow as yourself, that is the biggest commandment in the Torah. If you get that right, you've got everything right. And they're very related to each other. What does it mean to love your fellow as yourself? The Alter Rebbe tells us you have to really love them as yourself. You have to realize you have a deep soul connection, that we're all part of one soul. Every Jew is part of a bigger godly soul. So does it mean that we look at another person and we judge them, and that we see that the way that they are serving God and studying Torah and approaching life, that we see, you know what, there's something wrong with that. We have to correct them. We have to set them on the right path. It's my path. Whatever my path is, I think I've got it, and I've got to set them on the right path. This is what the students of Rabbi Akiva did. They truly felt they were expressing love to their fellow Jew, to their fellow student, because they said, I know I'm right, and they're wrong. Their approach is not quite perfect. Let me set them on the right path. But that was not, these students died. These students died because that is not how Torah can be promulgated. So I think we really have to look into our own behavior and our own feelings toward others, and we have to look into our own desire for our own spiritual growth, because the first Parshat Aharei Mot talks about the fact that Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, died on the first day that the Mishkan was set up. And why did they die? One explanation is that they died because they brought this pan of incense. They were so caught up in loving God and wanting to be close to Him that they brought this incense to increase that closeness. But as a result, their souls couldn't stay in their bodies. They departed from their bodies and became one again with the Shekhinah. But that's not what Hashem wanted. He doesn't want us to pursue our own spiritual growth to the extent that we lose our lives and we detach completely from this world and from our fellow human beings. Part of our spiritual growth is loving another person. It's being patient with another person. It's welcoming another person. It's letting another person express themselves and not saying, well, I'm impatient. This is boring. This is not what I want to hear right now. No. We need to be open to them. We need to listen to them. We need to give them honor. We need to give them love. That's Torah. We could hear the most incredible Dvar Torah about Chassidus, about Gemara, about Chumash, about anything. That's not what it is. The important thing is to show Ahavas Yisrael. That's Torah. If we go to a shir and we're patient and we listen to others and we let them express themselves and we get off the topic, we have now embodied the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisrael. We have mastered a piece of Torah that we wouldn't have been able to master by listening to just the words of the shir. By living it, by feeling it, by doing it, this is how we master it. By being patient, by being loving, by being caring, and by not being so concerned with our own spiritual development, but being more concerned with how another person feels and how to honor them. And being open to learning from them, because in Pirkei Avos it tells us, who is wise? The person who learns from every person. That's how you become wise, by listening to others, by being open to them, by being patient. And this is what the converts were saying, that if you're strict with people and you shut them off and you cut them down, you won't help them to become under the wings of the Shekhinah. You won't be embodying that trait of Ahavas Yisrael. Ahavas Yisrael is so, so, so important. And another important thing which we learn from this story about the converts is loving the convert. We are told in the Parshat Kedoshim, Ve'ahavta le're'acha kamocha. But in Parshas Ekev, we're told, Ve'ahavtam et hager. So let's listen to the difference in the language. Ve'ahavta le're'acha. You will express love to your fellow Jew. Kamocha. Like yourself. Somewhat like yourself. Then we have Ve'ahavta et hager. You shall love et. What does et mean? Et means I am talking about a specific person, their essence. I'm being specific. Ve'ahavta et hager. It means you have to love the essence of the convert. The Rambam tells us that Ve'ahavta et hager, it's a greater commandment of love because it's like Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. This is what we say in the Shema. Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. What does it mean to love God? It means to love his essence. So when we love the convert, we love his essence. It's even a greater commandment than it is to love your fellow Jew, which is Ve'ahavta le're'acha kamocha, which is not the same language as Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, right? So we need to be kind and patient and loving toward our fellow Jews and toward converts especially, and toward each other. And God willing, we'll heal ourselves. We will be embodying the greatest precept of the Torah, and we will create a dira b'tachtonim, a world that Hashem wants to live in. He wants us to be at peace with each other. He wants us to love with each other, and to really show that with patience and caring and goodness. I want to bless everyone listening to this, that you should have a beautiful Shabbos, and that you should do a lot of soul searching, and you should work on your Ahavas Yisrael in loving others, and that others should love you, and we should all get through this time together with love, so that when we meet again in person, we can show each other just the most incredible love and caring, and hopefully it will bring to the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days. Amen.